Yeah, thank you, Amy, that was wonderful. So today is Father's Day, in case you couldn't tell. It's a day when we honor the fathers and the men who have had a fatherly role in our lives. In my opinion, fathers get kind of gypped on this day. I mean, think about it in comparison to Mother's Day. There's no comparison, the big deal that's made about mothers versus fathers on Father's Day. I mean, moms, do you know that Mother's Day is considered in profitability second only to Christmas, to the retailers? I mean, you got your candy, you got your flowers, you got your jewelry, you got your perfume, all this, you know what the #1 gift for dads on Father's Day? A tie. Moms get flowers and candy and jewels, guys get a tie. My dad would always say, oh no, don't get me anything, okay, get me a pair of socks. After he made his transition, we counted his socks, he had something like 75 pairs of socks, you know? But if your dad was like my dad, that was just fine with him. He didn't want a big fuss made about him. He didn't want a lot of attention, and he particularly didn't want us to spend our money on him. He wanted us to save it for a rainy day, you know, the nest egg. Yeah, right. Sorry, Dad. Just kidding. What gave my dad the greatest pleasure in the world was when his family was together and he would take us out for a meal. So for Father's Day, the greatest gift we could have was to get together and let him buy lunch or to let him buy dinner. It was very, I thought that was generous of us, right? There are 3 stages in man's life. He believes in Santa Claus. He doesn't believe in Santa Claus. He is Santa Claus. Oh, that says Santa Claus. Oh, boy. I'm having a week. That's all I have to say about that. So today we're going to talk about and celebrate the masculine aspect of the divine. If you remember, on Mother's Day last month, we talked about the feminine aspect of the divine, and we honored all of the women as goddesses. But today we're going to talk about the masculine aspect of the divine, which may not seem all that unusual because most of us were brought up with a masculine aspect of the divine, right? In Judeo-Christian cultures, which is basically what ours are, God was male, and that was it. But there was a reason for that. Because back in the day, and I'm talking about way back in the day, historically speaking, people built their beliefs on the things that they could see and the things that they experienced. And because they lived in a patriarchal society, then of course their God was a patriarchal God. They made God in their image and likeness. Think about Moses. Think about Abraham. Think about Charlton Heston playing both those characters. That's what their patriarchs looked like. So in that case, that's what their God looked like. So God as Father ruled the universe much like a father might, with an iron hand and maybe sometimes a temper, coupled with a guiding and loving hand. But most of all, with a lot of rules. Man-made rules. Have you ever thought about that? Ever wondered why, I'm going a little off topic here, but if you ever wondered why, how many of you were brought up Catholic? Wow, a lot of you. Okay, there was a day when you couldn't eat meat on Friday, right? What was up with that? I mean, seriously, what was up with that? And then one day it was okay. Man-made rules. Because that guy didn't all of a sudden say, you know what? Hey, you guys, you know what? It's okay. Go ahead and eat meat on Friday. Come on. So for a lot of people, the idea of God as Father, though, it's very safe. It's very comforting. Our Father who art in heaven. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. I mean, just go like that. That feels good, right? Unless you were brought up with a father who wasn't comforting, who wasn't safe. In which case, God as Father was something to be feared. It was something to be placated. It was something to be mollified. It was something to be avoided. Because not everybody was brought up with a loving father. There were and are a lot of unskilled parents out there, let's face it. As I said on Mother's Day, it doesn't come with a handbook, right? I don't want to use the word bad as in a bad parent, but there are definitely some people who should not have been parents. And yet, if those unskilled parents hadn't chosen to be parents, then some of us wouldn't be there, wouldn't be here. And that would be a bummer, right? Think about that. Even if you had one of those unskilled parents, they made you, and you're here, and you're making a difference in the world. Because one of the greatest lessons that we can learn from less than skillful parents is, or less than wonderful childhood, is to break the chain. I had a friend who was a single father. And I asked him one day what he wanted for Father's Day, and then I wrote down what his answer was. He said, I didn't have a great relationship with my dad. He left when I was 5 and wasn't involved in my life at all. Now that I have a kid, I want to be very involved in all the aspects of his life, because I don't ever want him to feel the way I felt growing up. What I want for Father's Day, he said, is just to be a great dad. So what he did was he broke the chains. You know, a lot of times our behaviors just come from our parents, that came from their parents, that came from their parents. What he did was broke the chain. And he created an entirely new experience for his kid and for him. He made a new history. And the beauty of how life works, this is what's so wonderful about how life works and about how our teaching, because we teach you how life works, is that we can always choose a new thought. We are called a new thought organization. When we have a new thought, we create a new experience. We can always have a new thought. We can always take a new action. We can always create a new history. One of our famous quotes from Ernest Holmes is, principle, meaning God, is not bound by precedent. Just what that means is that just because it never was doesn't mean it can't be. You know, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And just because it always was doesn't mean it has to be. Is this making sense? Yeah. Making sense to you? Yeah. So on Mother's Day, when we talked about the feminine aspect of God, and we celebrated women as goddesses, and now we're talking about the masculine aspect of God, so which one is right? Is it the feminine aspect of God, or is it the masculine aspect of God? You know the answer, right? Yeah. What's the answer? Oh, thank you! Old-time metaphysicians often refer to God as Father, Mother, God. Have you ever heard that phrase before? Father, Mother, God. Because it encompassed both aspects of this divine parentage. The provider and the nurturer. Love and law. All of that together. In fact, here's how Ernest Holmes put it. He said, Spirit is the Mother, Father, God. Because it is the principle of unity back of all things. The masculine and feminine principles both come from the one. The masculine and feminine principles both come from the one. Now, we don't often use the phrase Father, Mother, God anymore because most of us are trying to get away from anthropomorphizing the divine. That's a big word, isn't it? Anthropomorphizing. I looked it up. And it means giving human attributes to something not human, especially to a deity. We anthropomorphize God when we think that he looks like Charlton Heston. We anthropomorphize God when we put it into any sort of a human form, because God is beyond that. God is beyond gender. You will never, ever, ever, ever hear me refer to God as he or father. You will also never hear me refer to God as she or mother, except for when I'm making a joke, and it's usually, kind of, be funny. That's important to me. And the reason why we in this teaching do not refer to God as either he or father or she or mother, but that combination of both, is because the God of our understanding transcends that. It transcends gender. It transcends personality. Because the God of our understanding is all there is. Look around the room. Look around the room, seriously. Whether it's a male or a female, you are observing the divine. It is in everything. It is in everyone. And it has masculine and it has feminine properties. Everything is an expression. Everything is an expression. Young, old, male, female, human, animal, earth, sky, it's all God. Just go like this. Can you feel it? It's all God. It's all the divine. And a very critical part of the expression of the divine here on earth is fathers. Is fathers. And not just for what they provided at the moment of creation, but for the impact and the teaching that they have on our lives. There is a completeness, there is a wholeness, there is a divine orderliness in the gender roles that most parents take on. There are things that moms do best, there are things that dads do best. Here's how Joseph Campbell put it. The father is more disciplinarian. He is associated much more with the social order and the social character. Mother gives birth to our nature, and father gives birth to our social character, how we are to function. So my dad was not the warm, fuzzy kind of guy at all. He was a Marine officer, and his job was to provide for his family. There were 6 of us, 4 kids and my mom and dad. There were 6 of us, and it was his job to provide for us in the best way that he knew how. So we traveled a lot because he was in the military, right? So he had to make sure that we safely moved from house to house, to city, to state, to country to country. When I was 6 years old, we moved to Japan, and we lived in Japan for 3 years. And he had to orchestrate all of that. So honestly, I don't remember him spending a lot of time listening to me and my feelings. I don't remember him being terribly interested in my girl hobbies, If you ever watched the TV show Father Knows Best, was it here in Canada, Father Knows Best? And you know how he always called his daughters Princess and Kitten? I never once heard my father call me Princess or Kitten. Do you know what he called me? Pat. Or Patricia Carolyn Campbell, march yourself over here if I was in trouble. But okay. So he didn't raise me or my sisters to be all girly and feminine. That wasn't his job. His job was to raise me to be a responsible member of society. He taught me the basics of football. He taught me how to change a tire. He taught me how to balance my checkbook, which I still kind of sort of know how to do. He taught me how to use a screwdriver. He taught me, and this is really important, how to care for an animal. When I was growing up, we had a basset hound named Abigail. And she had my father wrapped right around her giant club-like paw. at night, he would put her in the garage, and he would make sure she had water. He would make sure that she had access to the backyard. He would tuck her into her blanket so that she looked like a long, fat sausage. Turn on her nightlight. And then scurry out the back door of the garage before she realized that she was being left alone in the garage. And he did this lovingly every night for as long as we had that dog. Now, I can honestly tell you, I do not ever remember my father tucking me in at night. But he did give me a nightlight, so. But the truth is, I learned how to be a loving and caring, compassionate person by watching my dad with his animals. And yet, as he grew older, he voiced concerns that he wasn't a good enough parent. He voiced concerns that he regretted being distant and a little bit too busy and a little bit too, sturdy, right? He didn't realize the legacy that he had left for us children just by being the man that he was, and us children and also our grandchildren. Let me just give you a for instance. When the grandchildren, I don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews, when the grandchildren were young, we would take family vacations. And we still take family vacations, even both my parents are gone. But we would go to Lake Tahoe in California, and we would do that every year, every other year when the kids were little, and as they were growing up into teenage years. Well, my parents have been gone for quite a number of years, and the kids are now adults, and they have children. Guess where we're going next week? We're going to Lake Tahoe as a family. And who it was planned by was not us old adults. It was planned by the young adults, because they remember those happy times and those happy memories. They remember how my parents were. They want to relive and to carry on that legacy. So, in my former center in California, I had a musician. We had good music there as well. I wouldn't have come here if the music was bad. Honest to goodness, I wouldn't have. So thank you guys. Or you guys thank those guys. But there was a musician there by the name of Joe Rathburn, and he wrote a song that after the first time I heard it, I made sure that he was always at my center on Father's Day because I wanted to hear this song. And I missed it last year because last year was my first Father's Day here. So I wrote to Joe and I asked him if he would send me a YouTube video or an MP3 of him singing this song. And it was what I based my talk on today, which was called The Dad I Had. And so he was able to give this to me. So it's just going to show a picture of Joe's dad, because that's the video that he sent me, but it's also going to have the song. So Dwayne, let's see if we can make this work.
Dad I had was a typical dad.
It's only coming through here, I think.
He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't half bad. He's half of why I'm here, and for that I'm glad. Yeah, I'm lucky to have had the dad I had. Now the dad I had met a girl named Mom, took her to the senior prom, stole her from a future dad named Tom. Dad I had met a girl named Mom. The dad I had worked all his life to have nice things for the kids and wife. He said he killed him a bar with a Bowie knife. The dad I had, he worked all of his life. Dad I had, he was awful smart. He could put it back together when I took it apart. He taught me how to whistle in the armpit. The dad I had, he was awfully smart. And he did the best he could with what he had. was brave and strong, and he could whoop 100 other dads all day long, but he never would have done it, see, it would have been wrong. The dad I had, he was brave and strong. The dad I had didn't seem to care about the color of your skin or the cut of your hair. If you did good work, he'd treat you square. The dad I had, he always tried to be fair. Now the dad I had believed in God. He did his praying every Sunday with a fishing rod. So when he met St. Pete, I hope he got the nod. See, the dad I had believed in God, and he did the best he could with what he had. Most of what he had, he got from his dad. The dad I had was a typical dad. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't half bad. He's half of why I'm here, and for that I'm glad. Yeah, I'm lucky to have had the dad I had.
Thank you for indulging me, because as I said, that's always been a real fave of mine. I like the term. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't half bad. He's half of why I'm here, and for that I'm glad. I'm lucky to have had the dad I had. So thank you, all you fathers, truly, truly, all you father figures, fathers to animals, grandfathers, adoptive fathers, anybody who touched the life of a child. You made a difference. You're all of you. Even if that isn't you, you are a divine expression of the divine masculine, and we love you. Happy Father's Day, and so it is. And now Amy is going to make us cry again.